Meanwhile, in other bipartisan news, some Democrats are expressing anger and anxiety over the budding friendship and partnership between Pennsylvania's two senators, Democrat John Fetterman and Republican Dave McCormick. As NBC News' Allan Smith reports, the Senate's newest odd couple is raising Republican eyebrows and Democratic alarms. And Allan Smith joins me now. Allan, thanks for being here. So tell us, how did this partnership between the senators develop, and what have they actually accomplished together so far?
Well, after Senator McCormick won his seat in 2024, former staffers to John Fetterman told me the senator was really eager to build a relationship with him out of the gate. And, you know, since then, their families have become pretty close. They've spent a lot of time with one another, and they've really taken it upon themselves to promote their relationship as a model for bipartisanship. Now, they have not really, managed to accomplish much legislatively so far, but they have, embarked on a number of initiatives, including creating a joint fundraising account that garnered a lot of attention.
And Allan, you report that Republicans are touting this as a sort of model of bipartisanship, while Democrats worry that it could lead to them losing one of their own. So tell us more about what is leading to Democrats' anxiety in particular here.
The joint fundraising committee that they launched, which was quite unusual, is at the top of the list for Democrats who are saying, what is going on here? I'll read a quote from Chris Deluzio, who's actually a potential primary challenger to Senator Fetterman in 2028. He said, I really have a problem with John Fetterman helping the Republicans to fundraise to beat Democrats in congressional races, and that's what this is. I'm doing everything I can so that we can win those districts, and to have John Fetterman now helping Republicans raise money to beat us, it's crazy stuff. Pennsylvania is home to 4 really pivotal swing House races this fall, and Chris Deluzio, along with some others who are really are saying what Senator Fetterman here is doing is quite confusing in a campaign season.
And you also report that Senator Fetterman could face primary challengers in 2028. Of course, he's not up this year, but who could challenge him? Give us a sense of that.
Well, Congressman Deluzio is certainly one person who could mount a primary challenge to him. There's also former Congressman Connor Lamb, who spoke with me for this story. He had run against Fetterman in 2022 and fell short in that primary. Congressman Brendan Boyle from the Philadelphia area is someone else who could run. And there's also been rumors that maybe Congresswoman Summer Lee might run also. Now, what's interesting here is that the more people who run in the primary, there's actually a better chance that Senator Fetterman could emerge from it, even though his numbers with Democrats are not very strong right now. The more people who are in such a race would create a lane where he could potentially survive. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that shakes out.
And we talked about some of the agita from Democrats, but on the flip side, why is Dave McCormick not facing any backlash for agreeing to work with a Democrat?
I mean, Senator McCormick and some Democrats have even said, he's managed this relationship really in an impressive way. But he hasn't had to really make any overtures for Democratic initiatives as part of this relationship. I mean, he and Fetterman brought a booth to the Great American State Fair that President Trump held last month for Pennsylvania after Governor Josh Shapiro said no Pennsylvania businesses were willing to show up. He went with Senator Fetterman went with Senator McCormick to Philadelphia to promote the Trump Accounts initiative. So there's really a lot of different Republican initiatives that they have promoted hand in hand. But, Senator Fetterman's former staffers are saying they aren't really seeing what Senator Fetterman is getting back in the other direction from his GOP counterpart.
As Senator Fetterman said on this show just a couple of weeks ago, that he will not become a Republican, but has still threatened to potentially leave the Democratic Party. Fascinating stuff. Allan Smith, thank you so much for bringing us your reporting.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.